Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition, a Sunday edition of Weekend Waypoints, a production of SEC Extra over at d1baseball.com. I'm your host, Joe Healy, and thank you to our friends over at Academy Sports and Outdoors for sponsoring this and every edition of Weekend Waypoints. Now they've been with us for more than a year now. Happy to be teamed up with those folks over there. We had a Saturday, folks, a couple double headers, made it a 18-game Saturday around the SEC, so a lot to get to on this episode. This is the final pre-recorded episode of this weekend. Live shows will return next weekend. My apologies again for that. Trust me, I much prefer the live shows. I'm missing that, having that interaction with you all, but I appreciate y'all being patient through this weekend with the pre-recorded episodes. Let's go right to it. Let's get to our game of the day. Let me pull up the box score here. It is Texas A&M 2, Penn 1. That was in 11 innings. Penn continues to be a thorn in the side of Texas A&M. Second straight year now that Penn has given Texas A&M all they can handle. Both teams continue to pitch really, really well in this series. We'll scroll down. There's A&M's pitching lines led by Weston Moss, a really good outing there. And we flip over to Penn's pitching lines, and again, like really, really solid stuff here. A lot of strike throwing. Limiting damage. I mean, both teams doing a really, really good job of that. I'm still not sure what to make of the A&M offense as we flip back over to their side of it. Obviously, in this series, you've been without Chris Hakopian. He's got a back issue. You're also without Caden Sorrell as a hitter. He did play center field in this game, but you don't have his bat in the lineup. He has some stitches in his hand. So he's not hitting right now. So those are two massive losses. Those are arguably your two best bats. But still, you would think that Texas A&M, based on what they did the first weekend against Tennessee Tech, would be producing a lot more against Penn. So I'm still not really sure what to think. I mean, maybe Penn is just this good again. Penn has certainly had very good teams recently. They got to a regional final back in 2023 at the Auburn Regional. So maybe this is just that. But it does make me kind of sit up and take notice, and I'll be interested to see what A&M does moving forward once it faces some teams that we know have pitching that can shut teams down, certainly once they get into SEC play. But even before that, I'll be interested to see what we get, because right now it's hard to square what we saw last weekend, where that offense looked like, just maybe the best offense in the country, and this weekend where they've been largely shut down by Penn. Just kind of hard to square those two things. The hero, that's the wrong tab. The hero was Sawyer Farr twice. He double in the ninth inning to tie the game, send it to extra innings, then drew a bases loaded walk in the 11th. Terrence Keel, the second, scoring both runs there, the one in the ninth and in the one in the 11th. To seal the win for Texas A&M. So well-pitched game for A&M. You certainly can't argue with the way they're pitching right now. The question just is the offense and how much what we're seeing there is this weekend is real versus just an off weekend or Penn just pitching it really, really well. Only time is going to tell on that. All right, close out there. All right, let's get to our hitter and pitcher of the day segment here. Let me pull up those very high-tech presentations here. And by that, I mean my Google Docs. Because that's the level of technology we're working with here on Weekend Waypoints. All right, let's get to it. Player of the day candidates. Jake Brown of LSU, 4 for 5, 3 runs scored, and a stolen base in LSU's 9-4 win over Notre Dame. You can read more about LSU's victory over Notre Dame in a piece on d1baseball.com. Bradley Smart is there at the Jacks Classic. He wrote about everything happening there at the Jacks Classic on Saturday, including LSU's lineup continuing to roll. So go check that out if you have not done so already. But LSU really has just kind of rolled through the first 2 days of that tournament, so kudos to them there. Will Craddock of South Carolina, 2 for 4 with a double, a home run, 4 runs batted in. South Carolina bounces back from a loss on Friday to Army by beating Navy 8-0. Took care of business, did what they needed to do there. Will Craddock right in the middle of it with 4 runs batted in. Kentucky split a doubleheader with Evansville. They won the first game 5-3, lost the second game 1-0. Impressive pitching performance there for Evansville. But in game one, Jace Tarnish, 3 for 5 with a stolen base. Hudson Brown, 3 for 4 with a double. We're going to skip the next two guys, but Kahio Aloy for Arkansas with a 7-6 win against Xavier. This was, I said before the weekend started, this could be a little bit of a tricky series for Arkansas, given that Xavier's an older team. They're a physical team. They're going to go in there expecting to be able to compete and to win a game. And Xavier nearly pulled it off, but Arkansas gets it done. Walk-off home run for Kahio Aloy. He played the hero there in that game. Trey Phelps of Georgia, 4 for 4 with a double, a home run, and 3 runs in a 12-4 win over Stanford. That is also a 20-game hitting streak for Trey Phelps if you go back to the end of last season. So obviously he's hot right now, and that's huge for Georgia. Trey Phelps, a guy who has shown glimpses of superstardom and what he could be. He's been a very nice player for Georgia. Don't get me wrong; it's not like he's underperformed, but there's been a belief that there's a little bit more in there, and maybe we're starting to see that. Also in postgame in this game, Wes Johnson expressed some irritation about maybe some things that were posted or said, or it wasn't clear to me exactly what he was referring to. And if this were a live show, maybe someone in the chat would be able to enlighten me, but I'm not aware of what he was referring to, but he was irritated about something that was being said somewhere. I'm presuming it was a social media thing that I'm just not aware of because I'm not as tuned in on social media as some others. So I don't know, but he certainly was not in a great mood in postgame, went out of his way to address it. So there's that. For Oklahoma, Miles Davis, 2 for 2 with a double, a home run, and 6 RBIs. Oklahoma beat the brakes off of Coppin State 24-0 in 7 innings. A big contributor there. Oklahoma drew 17 walks. Kudos to anyone who sat through that entire game. Because it's not just that it was 24-0. Sitting through all of those walks, that game had to really drag on. But a big win for Oklahoma there. Not a big win like an important win, but literally just a large number of runs in terms of a big win there for Oklahoma. They've won those first 2 games of the series rather easily. I expect more of the same on Sunday. For Vanderbilt, Tommy Gooden, 2 for 3 with a double, a home run, 5 runs batted in a 12-1 win over Marist. Not a lot to say here. Vanderbilt just continues to roll on in its series against Marist, taking care of business there. Isaiah Frost from Missouri, 2 for 3, 2 walks, 3 runs batted in. Missouri beat New Haven 17-5 in 7 innings. It is New Haven, the newest Division I team in the country, so the expectations there for their ability to compete are relatively low. But I will say, after losing that first game to Mount St. Mary's to begin the season, Missouri has steadied the ship a little bit and has now started taking care of business in these type of games. We're ultimately going to have to wait and see once they face a team that's not a small school from the Northeast, because so far that's all they've played. Or at least on the weekends, that's all they've played. So we're going to have to wait and see once they get up against some tougher competition. For Auburn, Bristol Carter, 3 for 3 at the leadoff spot with a home run and a walk. Brandon McCrane for Auburn, 3 for 4 with a triple. Those two guys are tied for the team lead in average at 571 so far this season. Bristol Carter, maybe that was kind of expected for Bristol Carter. I know he was a little bit of a breakout candidate in the fall. Butch Thompson told me that he felt like Bristol Carter was a new man. Certainly he's showing that so far, but Brandon McCrane is, I don't want to say come out of nowhere totally, but it's a guy who redshirted last year just because he wasn't physically ready. He didn't mope about it. He didn't transfer. He just stuck around and got to work, and he's was ready this season. With Chris Rimbert out, he's been playing some second base, and offensively he's helped pick up some of the slack that Auburn needed to have picked up early in the season when the lineup wasn't really operating it at a high level. Yesterday they went 8-5 against Florida State, a very important win there, and to score 8 runs I think is huge for this lineup. The lineup is starting to come around a little bit, starting to come back to life after that slow start. Kyle Jones for Florida, 3 for 4 with a double. Florida with where's that score? 11-0 win over Kennesaw State. That's in 7 innings. Kudos to the Gators for taking care of business against a tricky Kennesaw State team. Not much else to say there. Doubleheader sweep for Alabama over Rhode Island. John Lim in game 1 of that doubleheader, 3 for 3 with a home run and 4 runs batted in for the Aussie John Lim. Those scores for Alabama were 8-5 and 11-1 with the 11-1 game ending in 8 innings. But the players of the day are two guys, not one, but two guys who hit for a cycle on Saturday. Camden Kojal for Arkansas, 4 for 5, 3 runs scored as well. And then Aiden Robbins, 4 for 4. So both did it the most efficient way possible with just the 4 hits. They are co-players of the day, given that they both hit for the cycle. For Texas, I saw it was the last cycle. I did not see this similar fact for Arkansas. I probably just missed it because I'm sure it was put in their notes. But first cycle for Texas since CJ Hinojosa back in 2015. That is for those of you college baseball heads out there that have been around for a while following the sport, the name CJ Hinojosa really takes you back. But co-hitters of the day both had a cycle. All right, we'll close out here. We'll go over to pitcher of the day. Pull those up. All right. Ant Phillips in that win for South Carolina over Navy. 6 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. A much-needed, excellent start for South Carolina after not getting that in the first game of the series this weekend against Army. In a losing effort in Game 2 of the doubleheader against Evansville, Nate Harris, 5 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. The pitching continues to be quality for Kentucky. It's been the offense. At least it was yesterday, the offense that just didn't quite get going. They lose the second game of that doubleheader. For Georgia, Matt Scott, 4 innings pitched, 3 hits with a run, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts in that win over Samford. Tomas Valencius worked around some base runners early in that game, but came out of it and threw an extremely strong start. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts for Valencius in Mississippi State's win over Delaware. Again, kudos to him. Worked out of some early trouble. Looked like maybe Delaware was going to scratch early on in that game against him. Did not, and then cruised the rest of the way there. Cade Townsend for Ole Miss in Ole Miss's 6-3 win over Missouri State. A much closer game there in Game 2 of that series. 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. That 8 strikeouts ties his career high, which he set last week, also with 8 strikeouts last week for Cade Townsend. Max Grubbs in relief for Texas in Texas's 3-1 win over Michigan State. 3 hitless innings, no walks, 2 strikeouts. He got 9 outs, only faced 8 batters. Fun little quirk there. He also only threw 27 pitches, so averaged 3 pitches per out. That, my friends, is efficiency. LJ Mercurius in that big win over that blowout win, I should say, over Coppin State. 5 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. Austin Nye for Vanderbilt in the win over Marist. Also 5 shutout innings with no walks and 6 strikeouts. For Tennessee, a couple names here. Landon Mack, he had been sick leading up to the start, so there was some thought that maybe they'd bump him to Sunday. Instead, he takes his turn on schedule on Saturday, throws 6 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts, an outstanding performance. And I put Brandon Arvidsson on here as a reliever, not so much because of the performance, although it was very good. You see the numbers there. It's a very good relief appearance, but more so just to mention that he's back on the mound, and that's going to make Tennessee even deeper on the pitching staff. Now, this was in a losing effort to Kent State, a 2-1 win for Kent State. And again, like I mentioned yesterday when it was one of the games of the day, because Tennessee had to walk off Kent State, I'm just going to assume this is because Kent State's really good. It might just be one of those years where Kent State is one of those plucky mid-majors like Oral Roberts a couple of years ago that got to Omaha, maybe like Murray State last year. I'm not saying Kent State's going to go to Omaha. That's hard to predict, but maybe it is that they are that kind of team, and that's maybe a part of why those first 2 games have gone that way. That's what I'm kind of choosing to believe. I don't think it's necessarily that there's anything inherently wrong with this Tennessee team, but we will continue to evaluate as time goes on. But Arvidsson there, 2 1/3 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts in relief. Aiden King for Florida in that win over Kennesaw. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. Not 1, but 2 good starts for Alabama in that doubleheader sweep over Rhode Island. Zane Adams gave up 2 runs in 6 innings, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And the freshman, Miles Upchurch, gave up 3 hits, no runs with 1 walk and 7 strikeouts in 5 innings. Obviously very positive for the freshman Miles Upchurch. Yes, the opponent was overmatched in Rhode Island, but for a freshman against any team this early in the season to put up numbers like that, very, very positive development there for Alabama. But the pitch of the day was Weston Moss in Texas A&M's win over Penn. The numbers are the numbers. That's part of the reason why he's the pitcher of the day. It's also just because when you're in that kind of close game with Penn, every pitch is kind of high leverage. And so, he dealt with that situation very, very well. Obviously did not get the win because A&M had to come back late, but a strong performance, 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 run, no walk, and 8 strikeouts. And like I said, every single one of those pitches felt like high leverage just because of how tight the game was. And it was obvious it was going to be that kind of game pretty early on. Okay, so that is hitter and pitcher of the day. Let's take a look at Sunday's slate. The game of the day there is Tennessee versus Kent State. That is a bubble game. Thought there was a chance Kent State got a game in this series, but I thought it might be like the Sunday game on the way out of town, something like that. Instead, it was Saturday, and now we have a a rubber game on our hands. Evan Blanco on the mound for Tennessee, and honestly, that's probably who you want. Evan Blanco is a guy who's pitched in a lot of big games, and this game is not necessarily a big game in the grand scheme of things. Although for Tennessee, it would be a tough series loss to take. But Evan Blanco has pitched in a lot of big games, going back to his days at Virginia. So in this situation where there's a little bit of pressure on Tennessee, I think having someone like Evan Blanco in the driver's seat starting that game, I think is helpful. So of all the options, I think as well as Landon Mack performed in his start yesterday, I do think there is something about having Evan Blanco specifically in this spot, but we will see. I can guarantee you Kent State's going to come out thinking they can win, because why wouldn't they? They already won a game in this series, and they're going to get their best shot. So Tennessee's going to have to come out and play well to clinch this series. I suspect they will. I suspect yesterday will have been a little bit of a, one of those games that shakes you awake a little bit, and I think Tennessee will come back to win the series behind Devin Blanco on the mound, but we shall see. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Weekend Waypoints, a production of SEC Extra over at d1baseball.com. Thanks again to our friends at Academy Sports and Outdoors for sponsoring this and every episode of Weekend Waypoints. And a reminder, live shows return Friday. Very much looking forward to it. Live shows all next weekend, 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. Looking forward to chatting with you all in the comments again and being able to have that interaction. I've definitely missed it this weekend. All right, enjoy the baseball today, everyone. I will talk to you on Friday, live and in person on Weekend Waypoints. Thanks for watching, everyone.